All right, welcome back, everyone, to another One Up XP Show podcast. Today, I'm joined by someone that there's a lot of people that said, you got to get this guy in the show. You got to get this guy in the show. You got to talk to this man. Well, I finally got this man. I gave him a little time because he was in the middle of moving, and he'll tell you you shouldn't have done that. But I gave the guy a little time. We have him here on the show today, but first, we got to get to that intro. And that man, of course, I'm talking about is Coach Adam Antor. Coach, thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. Everyone that I've talked to, I'll say most people that I've talked to have said, you got to get Adam on the show, man. You got to get Adam on the show. I want to start off by saying he was the coach and director, correct, at Aquinas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, head esports coach was the title there.
Head esports coach at Aquinas College. And as I was starting the show and getting podcast guests on, he made the jump to Florida. It's Florida Southern College, correct?
That is correct.
The Moccasins?
Home of the Mocks.
The Mocks.
Yeah.
So he is down that way. And as I was setting up podcasts, he was in the middle of getting down there, getting settled, get everything going. And I was like, I'll bug him later. I'll let him set up shop, and then I'll bug him later. But just briefly talking to this man before the podcast and getting to know him, a wealth of knowledge. Like, this guy knows what he's doing, and the people that I've talked to suggesting that I need to talk to this man, we're not kidding. So I'm glad to have you on the show. Thank you, brother, for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I do have to say, you moved everything down yesterday. You're finally out of Michigan now, and you've been driving a long time, and you're down there now. So before we get too deep into where you're at now in Florida Southern, let's talk about Adam Antor, how you got to where you're at, gaming, your background. Just start it off for us, kind of the life story as Doc calls it, but where did you start? How did you get there? What entertained you in gaming? The Adam Antor story, start for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that the first true moment where I knew I was a gamer was getting the Game Boy Color for my 5th birthday. Okay. And I've been told I learned how to read playing Pokemon, but I don't even know if 5 is too late to learn how to read. So maybe that's a wise, old tale my mom just says just to sound cool. But
I mean, it sounds accurate. I mean, in 5th grade, we're starting to put letters together. That's what I did in kindergarten.
Yeah, it was kindergarten. Yeah. I was 5. I think my mom says that it encouraged me to learn how to read, I guess, is probably a way. Because I wanted to know what, like, Professor Oak was telling me or what Gary was, like, saying bad about me. Like, I wanted to know that. So I went, it got me to learn how to read, and played that Pokemon Game Boy, the color, the red Game Boy Color, so much outside that it turned pink. And
that's that very unique sun faded color.
Yes, sun faded. I love the term that you use there. Sun faded red is what it is. I got the red Pokemon cartridge, and red was my favorite color. I wanted to be a fireman growing up at that age.
That's why you ended up in Florida Southern.
Yeah, look at all the red. I mean, so much red everywhere. It's crazy. But yeah, that's kind of the beginning. But then it kind of blossomed into high school when the Xbox 360 came out. Yeah. And I got one of those. I got Halo 3 in the first Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, and started staying up till 4 a.m. playing with my buddies and having Madden tournaments in my basement on the weekends. Yep. Like, that was my first taste into what esports was, even though we didn't really have a term for it, or I didn't know a term for it at the time. And game battles started. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Yeah. We didn't play, my buddies didn't only play like 2 or 3 matches total ever on game battles. But it was such a cool experience because it was a competitive opportunity outside of just the ranked ladder.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a ranked ladder. It was just like experience at that time.
And that was really cool because I remember that that's when I really got heavy into competitive gaming. It wasn't even really competitive. It was just friends saying, hey, we could play other people, but we could play on a kind of like a different tier of ranked, if you will. And they had referees. You signed up. It was cool.
It was intense.
It was crazy. And that was like the first iteration of it that I can recall was right around World at War, right after Modern Warfare. But those days were, man, we would stay up so late. And I remember going to work one morning, 6 hours, not even 6 hours of sleep, and someone's like, "You look tired." I was like, "Yeah, we had some intense video game battles last night."
Yeah.
Like, what? I was like, "Don't worry, I'll tell you later." But game battles was essentially like the beginning of esports, if you will. And that's
for us, at least,
like 06, 07, 08.
Yeah. At least in America, from my perspective and my generation, like that was the start. Other people would say like the arcade, or other people might say StarCraft, but for me, it was game battles. And and then in college, I kind of started going on single player grind fest, playing Skyrim and playing Grand Theft Auto. But then a couple of my fraternity brothers introduced me to League of Legends, and I had a Microsoft Surface at the time, so I actually played on a tablet. I was like the campus rep for Microsoft, so they gave me a free Surface. Oh, wow. So I had this tablet, and I'd be playing League on it. And one of the coolest experiences in my entire college career was I went to a school. It's like we were prideful that we were all nerds. Right. But we found 50 players of League of Legends on campus, and we created our own campus league with 10 different teams. Okay. And we had captains, and you drafted your team for the season, and we played each other every Sunday night. Cool. And that was a real taste into like the next step into esports for me. And I started watching streamers at that point. Yeah. So
where did you go to school?
Truman State University in Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Business marketing. Okay. So I grew up in Michigan, and then freshman year of high school moved down to St. Louis, Missouri for my dad's job. Didn't know anyone there, so gaming was really kind of like my thing. I think you've had past guests who are like, I was a military brat, or I moved and gaming was the only thing. Like for me, same thing. Like gaming was the thing I had when I first moved, and then I went to school at Truman State, and then after college, I started working at a high school in St. Louis at the time, and Maryville was just starting their program, and Dan Clerkey was kind enough to show me the space. I got to come play a game of League in their space at the time. It was like 2016, 2017. And then I moved to Michigan to work at another high school back in Grand Rapids, and that's where I started. I was the marketing director, and that's where I started an esports team there. And that's how I got into the high school side of esports.
Let's briefly talk about that, because when we were talking earlier, this was what, 2017?
Yeah, 2017, 2018.
I mean, and in that stage of esports, especially high school, that's one of the first programs in Michigan.
It was, it was crazy, because I wanted to start a gaming club. Because I still game with my high school buddies. I wanted to create that same opportunity. And I saw a student wearing an esports jersey on campus. I was like, oh my gosh, wait, let's talk about this. And we started talking and decided to start a club. And then I was like, I bet there's a league we could play in. We found something called the High School Esports League, which was in its first or second year ever back then, I believe. And we played Rocket League. We finished 4th in the country in summer of 2018. And it was so cool. My kids loved it. And that fall I came in, I brought all my seniors together, a couple of parents, and I was like, guys, I'm crazy, I know, but I have this vision to create a competitive gaming place on campus for you guys to compete in, so you guys don't have to compete at home. Right. I don't know how we're going to do it. There's no money. Like, no one's giving me money to build something, but this is what I want to do. This is my vision. And like 3 months later, we had a grandparent get the pitch from our students who like created a pitch deck and pitched the idea, and ended up funding the entire project, $35,000. And we built the first high school esports lab in the state of Michigan.
That's wild. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hats
and
off,
then like
dude.
The next year we had like 5 to 10 different high school teams in the state. So like it from 2018 until now, it's like just gone 100 miles an hour.
Oh yeah. And that's what I love about it so much is, a lot of people didn't know how to say start it or just kind of jumped into it. And that's what I love about talking to all these different coaches and programs is everyone's kind of paving their own path in esports.
Yeah.
And there's little things that people grab, but they continue to be very, very different with building their own programs. And you get to hear so many great stories like that. I mean, that's crazy. Back in 2017, 2018, you have a high school that picks up esports. You get to build an arena. I was like, possibly the first one. for high school. I was just like, man, that's wild. Hats off to you, because that's huge. That's huge.
It was all volunteer
blocks.
too at the time, which is like what a lot of high school coaches are going through right now. Like anyone who started a high school team has gone through it. It's like, there's no money. We're not getting paid. There's no resources on campus for esports. Like, we are like meeting once a week in a lab and then practicing remotely online most of the week. And, but we all do it for the same reason. Like, we do it to give opportunities to students that we didn't have, and we find it to be valuable.
And those opportunities now are just so vast.
Oh my gosh, the opportunities keep growing. Now we're talking about scholarships to college. That was not a thing when we were talking about the high school team.
Yeah, exactly. And now, I mean, like, and it was funny because we just had Carl Leone on, who we'll get to in just a bit, was a mentorship under you. But he was part of the very first scholarship program in the country with Robert Morris way back in 2014. But then you start talking high schools, and a lot of high schools here in Northern Michigan are now starting to pop up, which is great, because up here, it's a little bit different, where you might not have the internet resources, you might not have a whole lot of progressive thinking or forward thinking in the fact that what can we do with video games, or what is available with video games. It's just not here yet, but a lot of people are starting to realize, wait, there's a lot more to this than what you see from just standing and watching someone play a video game. So
absolutely,
and that's what is amazing. So so you went from that high school to Aquinas, correct?
To Aquinas. Yeah. So I was trying to start a club at Aquinas, and at the time I was working on my master's, and the president of the college started seeing other schools start varsity teams.
Right.
And they decided that's the route they wanted to go instead of just a club. And they offered me the full-time job. And looking at it, me and my wife were like, is this really worth it? Like, I'm going to throw away this director of marketing position to go be an esports coach.
Right.
And actually, the funnier story is that a month before I was offered that job, Davenport posted their position for head esports coach.
Oh, really?
And, and my literal thought was like, that's so risky. I'm not going to throw away my career to be an esports coach in college. This is going to fizzle out after a year. And a month later, Aquinas offered me, and I ended up accepting the position, going full-time into college esports, and I haven't looked back.
That's wild.
So,
like, did all the Grand Rapids schools come around at the same time?
It was just Davenport and Aquinas. So there was, at that time, it was Davenport and Aquinas in Grand Rapids, and Siena Heights had a team. Northwood was launching their team. Okay. And then there was one more. I think Alma College was the fifth.
Yeah.
So there was 5 schools at that time.
And I think Central had a club.
A lot of the bigger schools have clubs or had clubs at the time.
I know Michigan State has a team, but they're not necessarily a varsity program. I don't even think they're a club even. I think they just have a lull team.
There's a lot going on at Michigan State when it comes to gaming, but all of it is student ran.
Okay.
But they've got a lot going on. But it was crazy. We were the first 5 schools in Michigan, and now we have like 25 varsity teams at the college level in Michigan. Most of them are giving scholarships. Mm-hmm. I mean,
and they'll get to that point if they're not. I know Ferris plans on doing it next year with scholarships with their arena coming in, and I'm sure there'll be varsity sport before long. Michigan Tech has a varsity program. I mean, there's so many options now, whereas, like you mentioned, just 3 years ago, it wasn't truly an option.
No.
So you were at Aquinas for 2 years?
I was 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now
we built the program.
And now you got the opportunity to be at Florida Southern.
Yes. Yeah. So we built the program from the ground floor at Aquinas, and then I started looking for opportunities because I knew kind of Aquinas's long-term goals were what I had basically accomplished the goals that I had been given.
Right.
And there wasn't a ton of enthusiasm to grow further. We had already grown a super successful program.
Right.
And with the state of the resources of the school and their priorities, I felt it was time to start looking for other opportunities. And that's what brought me to Florida Southern. They want to build something big, and they want to be competitive nationally. So I just took that over about a month and a half ago, and we're running from day one.
And, I feel like that's something that esports especially in the college level, runs into quite a bit, is a lot of people, yes, you get the okay to do it, and then you do it, and you're just so far ahead of the game, and you just feel like, all right, we did it. We've got this.
Yeah.
And then you hit that kind of like, if you will, writer's block. You just hit that block, and then they don't know where to go or get up on the wall.
Absolutely.
Like, there's special creative minds that can take it somewhere else. And you're one of those very creative minds. And I've met a lot of them through this podcast and through the experiences on Twitter, that there are certain people that will take that one thing and rather than be okay with it, will take it to the next level. You know, and being okay with it's not bad, but the thing is, there's so much more than what we already have. You know, there's so much more than it can be. And
I mean, I'm looking at myself. I'm 28 years old. Yeah. And where I'm at in my career, I've only been doing esports coaching for 2 years. I truly felt that like I need to be able to build something bigger. Like now, I have so much time and so much opportunity for growth in my personal career that the change just felt right at the time. But yeah, you're exactly right. Sometimes there's a certain level of risk with every dollar that a school invests into something, especially esports. And the people who have to okay that investment are administrators who are often older generation who don't understand esports. And yeah, a lot of them basically they start esports to get 30 new students on campus. And this is the level of investment they're okay with doing that with. And then once you hit that number, then it's the administrator has to come up with another kind of fork in their road, is like, do we continue to invest further to maybe grow this bigger, or is the risk not worth it and let's just stay where we're at?
Yeah, because a lot of programs,
that's definitely a problem.
A lot of programs don't understand, I think, when they say, yeah, we'll have an esports program. You don't understand how many people you're going to get coming through those doors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at Northwood. Northwood has 77 students in their program right now. Where Aquinas, we had 33. And they only were planning on 30 at our school. I know Northwood definitely was not planning on 77 because now they're hiring more staff and giving more scholarship. And
it's like Oakland, because like Carl was telling me, they have club teams for all of the games, and then they have the varsity, and then they have like hundreds of kids alone just in their club teams.
Yeah, I think he said he had 250 people apply for his first tryouts his first year. That's crazy.
Wild to me. But but I've said it before too. I said if I would be in the Detroit market doing this show, it would be very different compared to where I am in Northern Michigan doing it, where I'm trying to explain to parents and get them to understand that, you know, a lot of these kids nowadays, you can't avoid video games. It's built into their DNA. And
it is.
They can do something with it, you know?
It is, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, there's such a big generational gap when it comes to moving forward with video games. And what we need to do is get together and have them like, okay, yeah, I understand this is video games. They have opportunities for it. And then the kids, of course, want to just run with it. So, and there's way more than just playing it.
For sure. And some of the findings we had at the high school level when we started the program was a lot of skepticism from admins to begin with, but then we started seeing students who were on the Dean of Students watch list as like troubled kids when it comes to showing up on a given day or doing homework. They were all of a sudden not on that list anymore, and all of a sudden the admins were the biggest proponents of an organized esports team because we had activated a section of the student body who were not engaged at all outside of the classroom, even not even engaged in the classroom, but we tied their academic performance to what they actually enjoyed doing, and all of a sudden they had a reason to do their homework and to study.
And I mean, when you look back at it, even when you and I went to high school, I mean, the biggest thing, if you got in trouble or if you didn't do something, the biggest thing was boredom. I mean, because you weren't engaged or there wasn't something for you to do, so you were off on your own or in your own head doing something. But when you introduce something that a lot of people already have engraved in them, such as video games, I mean, that opens a whole different thing. When you tell a kid, you can do this and do whatever you want with it for, you know, this, but you have to do this. Like, oh, of course. Like, I have a big game coming up. I got to do this. Like, I want to take part in this tournament. I got to do this. Like, yeah, of course.
And we could do an entire episode on the soft skills that these students are finally being able to learn if those students weren't on a traditional sports team. So the same communication, teamwork, dedication, all of those soft skills you learn in being on a football team or a soccer team or what have you. Now we tie that into another activity that they enjoy doing. And that is the greatest challenge as an esports coach right now, is because I have students that I recruit in who have never been on a team. Period. Never been on a soccer team, never been on a football team. They don't know what it means to give up this little moment of dominating their opponents in order to give their entire team a better advantage. Like that concept totally new to them.
Yep.
And that's exciting for me. And that's a really, I think, positive piece of this esports thing is we're not just playing video games. We're teaching the soft skills that will create success for these students in the future once they get out of school.
That is 100% correct. So I do want to get dive into a little bit more here. We found out everything behind you, and I knew this is exactly what would happen is we get down a road and we just end up continue going down a road.
Yeah.
But
apologies.
No, it's all good. And that's what I love about it, because you get deeper into it and you get deeper into, you know, the things that people need to hear. But at the same time, you know, if parents want their or want to help their kids get to where they need to go, they need to understand the backgrounds of the programs, or understanding and thinking of what is going into these programs. Because I'm not a parent yet, but I can say if my kid wanted to do this, I need to know a lot more behind it. You know, especially with it being so brand new. And it's like Carl said, I keep going back to Carl because he was a wealth of knowledge, but he's like, in 2014, when somebody offered you money to go to school to play video games, it was a scam, man. That was not real. Like, you had to deep dive and make sure this was a real thing, man. You don't want to be left on the hook with all this money to pay school. But now, yes, it is becoming a thing and it is real, but parents still really want that reassurance that, you know, okay, this is legit. This is a good thing. They can really do what they need to do. But what achievements have you had over the years in esports? And we talked about it where you've had,
gosh,
I know it's stacked up, brother. But we've talked that, you know, you started that high school program, one of the first few high school programs in Michigan. You built Aquinas up from the ground. You're now at Florida Southern College. What achievements do you hold near and dear to yourself for this over the last few years?
Holy cow. I hate talking about myself, and
I know,
my wife and everyone will say
we need it, man. Carl's the same way, and I know where he gets it now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's my fault. Yeah. Holy cow. Man. My greatest achievements have always been to watch a student graduate that was in our program and then come back and help other schools or our school in our program. I know we had a couple of Aquinas grads who came back and ran Smash tournaments for the community at Aquinas. And another kind of tying to that is seeing students find success in esports outside of the program. Yeah. So like at Aquinas, we had a kid try out his my first year for Rocket League, and he was just absolutely awful. He was awful. This is going. Yeah, and I said, you know, you're not quite where we need you to be on the varsity team, but I need casters. I need broadcasters to do play-by-play for our matches. Would you be interested? And he said, sure. And now he was just broadcasting Collegiate Rocket League in front of thousands of people online because he has grown his casting career to now earn money still as a student, casting these Rocket League tournaments. Yep. His name's Powder Colin. And seeing his success brings me more joy than any piece of hardware that we've gotten. But if we want to talk about the hardware, I mean, it's last year.
No, I mean, last year, all achievements, you know, and like you said, and I've watched Powder for a long time, and I've seen him grow from, you know, really infancy, if you will, but he is a great caster. I mean, and that's the thing that kids don't understand, that, you know, they might have the ability to do or the talent to do until they get to school, and then they're like, okay, I didn't make the varsity team, or, you know, I mean, I don't.
This guy was on the baseball team at Aquinas, didn't know anything about esports until he tried out that one day, and his life, I think, has changed completely. 180.
Yeah.
And that has been exciting to see.
I mean, it's just great when you get kids in and you can be able to send them out the door. And not even if it's involved with esports, but just, you know, more aware and more, you know, it's a million times over, man. I understand it 100%. I was one of those kids. Like, I understood a lot of the teachers wanted me to succeed leaving high school. And I told them I wanted to go do my weather gig. That's what I wanted to do. And when I came back and was on local TV, you know, I go back to the high school and talk to those teachers, and they're like, we're so happy to see you do that. Like, we're so proud of you. I was like, thank you. Like, I really appreciate that. And you're not aware of just how much support you have until you come back, you know? So I understand that's
gotta be so cool.
And that is a big achievement. Getting kids in, getting them out.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that I'm pushing everyone to the esports industry. I mean, I have plenty of players who have no interest in going esports full time after, but the skills they learn and like the opportunities they get to put on a Florida Southern jersey or Aquinas jersey and represent their school, I think adds a lot of value when they start looking for jobs, even outside of the esports industry. And I've had graduates who go into banking and finance, accountants, and not my cup of tea, but
yeah,
I'm equally proud of them. And shoot, they're making a really good livings, more than I'm probably making. And
that's the other thing that parents should
awesome.
know too, is they can go for esports, play some video games, but they don't have to get a degree in video games. They can still get a degree in what they want. It's just a lot of kids gravitate to video games, and now since they're tied into video games, they're learning those team building skills. They're learning communication skills. They're learning everything that goes along with being a team.
Absolutely,
which is 150% you need to do out in life.
Yeah, if a kid's getting a volleyball scholarship to college, that doesn't mean they're going to go into the volleyball industry or get a degree in volleyball. It's just another thing that they're passionate about, and and an opportunity for them to be engaged and to learn some of those extra skills too.
Exactly. So now, if you're joining us right now, as you see on the bottom of the screen, we have Florida Southern playing USC here with Overwatch. I pulled this from their Twitch channel, which you can find down there below. It says Florida Southern College there on the Twitch. You can catch them pretty much all the time, I'm sure, streaming. And do you have you gotta have casters, I'm certain.
Yeah, we have casters most of the time.
Okay.
I think on Overwatch we definitely do. Rocket League we usually do, and League of Legends is most of the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
we're starting, we're
different.
building something up. I mean, every program's in a different state in their growth process, and we're definitely kind of in a place where we've got a lot of work to do still.
So now we are here and we're talking about it. What currently you're at Florida Southern College.
I am.
And tell us about your new program, what you look to do, what you're coming into, what are your goals here? Obviously, we know you want to get the building and get the kids in the door, but tell us a little about Florida Southern College.
So the Mocs. So we're a small school, a D2 school actually down in Lakeland, Florida, where the Tigers do their spring training. Very involved with that. I'll definitely be at least one game in the spring.
Of course you will,
but we're about 3,000 students. They started their esports program about 4 years ago, actually, and it's been mainly driven on the student engagement side instead of the athletics or competitive side or recruitment. And they started with a 12 computer lab, which is where I'm sitting now. It's the varsity space. But last year they decided they wanted to build something a little bit bigger. So I now report to the athletic director and the dean of students, and they just opened a 30 computer arena downstairs that has a stage and access for students across campus to come and compete and play in.
That's cool.
So and they haven't really done a ton of recruiting until I got here. So I have a lot of work to do from a recruitment standpoint. Broadcast has been kind of more grassroots of what we can pull together on a PC in the lab. And I want to build something a little bit more professional out like what Boise does. But that's kind of where we're at. We're competing in League of Legends, Overwatch, and Rocket League. We've got a pretty good teams in all of them.
I've been
well
keeping
above
up with you guys on Twitter,
average.
and I've been seeing some good things coming out of there. And I just say it's the Adam experience, because when you get Adam in there, it seems like programs do just fine. But you're there in the lab right now.
I am.
You see the computers and chairs behind you, so it looks good, brother. I'm not gonna lie. It's got that sun-faded red.
So this is the varsity only space. So our varsity program players have access to this space whenever they want. This is where we do practices, and then our matches are downstairs in the arena. So we'll meet down in the arena before a match. We'll sit up on stage, and then we have a projector that goes above and some seating. It looks really cool. That's where we're at. Florida Southern they just started a minor in esports management in their business department, and a postgraduate certificate in their MBA program. So you can actually get an MBA with a concentration in esports management. So the academic side of the house is supporting esports as well. So that's really exciting to see. And it's definitely something new that I haven't experienced before.
I'm proud of you, brother. You're doing it. You're doing it the right way, man. And I mean, the sky's the limit, and you know that. And I'm super stoked for you. Yes, we miss you in Michigan. Yes, I'm sure they miss you at Aquinas, but man, you're doing it. And again, like I said, I appreciate you having on.
Michigan is doing just fine. They are killing it. There's some really good programs and coaches up there. I think that some of the best in the country are up there in Michigan.
It's a hub, man. It's really weird.
It is.
Michigan and Texas, it seems like there's just
Yeah.
programs
Michigan,
everywhere.
I mean, it's just so cold most of the year. So you got people sitting inside. I think you've talked about the two things that you need is like internet and bad weather. It's
Internet
like
and bad
it
weather.
makes the perfect esports place. You got Michigan. I mean, it's the place.
It's cold, 6 months of the year. So
it is.
it's like I sat down with Caitlin Roos from Michigan Tech, and she said,
it's real cold up there.
Yeah, she's like, it's cold here most of the year. So what are you gonna do? You can be inside. What are you gonna do? You can play video games. And I was like, what about Texas? She's like, well, Texas, it's hot most.
It's too hot.
You gotta have AC and you're inside. So I mean, I was like, it makes sense. So
it does. It's good.
All right, so we're gonna dive into some of the meat and potatoes here, the questions that I have for you. And feel free to, like, if we get through the questions, we do. I always tell everybody, these are just kind of lazy rundowns, if you will, because we talk so much and then we get tangents and it's just it's good, whatever. But my first question, and obviously I followed you on Twitter since I started this gig. But you come with a lot of wealth in like third-party licenses. Why esports might be a little bit tougher than, say, traditional esport or traditional sports. But what is the biggest challenge in collegiate esports right now? Whether it's third-party licenses, all these different titles and games. But what is the biggest challenge in collegiate esports?
Most of it definitely stems from the licensing thing. So for those of you who are listening who aren't totally aware, in traditional athletics, no one owns the game of football.
Right.
So the NFL doesn't have to pay someone to host the NFL.
Right.
They just can, because the football is open property, basically. Whereas in video games, it's totally different. All these games that we compete in are owned by for-profit companies.
Right.
And we and leagues have to get permission to run tournaments in those games, whether that's through paying for a license or using very strict guidelines that are given to leagues to run free tournaments. And because of that, the space is all over the place, and it's very everyone likes to say the Wild West. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's just all over the place. And there's not the NCAA isn't adopting esports at this point. They've tabled the conversation, quote unquote, until a further date. But the NAIA has started something called NACE, and I know NACE has been brought up in this on this podcast before. And they're doing something similar. They're doing a pretty good job, I would say. I'm the chair of the competition council, so I'm heavily involved in those conversations. But yeah, a lot of the problems stem from licensing. And another example of this is that there's a for-profit high school league called Play Versus, who actually owns the exclusive license for League of Legends competition at the high school level.
Really? Okay.
Yes, so they own the exclusive license. So when you look at MySEF, which is the Michigan High School League that's free for high schools, they don't own the ability to run competition in League of Legends. And what that has done at the college level is now, we were just talking about it, me and Northwood and a couple of the other Michigan coaches were talking about today, finding League of Legends players at the high school level has become near impossible because no one is playing it in an organized fashion, because Play Versus owns that exclusive license. So
I know there's one school up here that has a team. Luddington has a team.
Oh, nice.
That has a League of Legends team, and they tweet out all the time about their competitions and whatnot. But I'm not sure if they fall under MySEF. I'm not sure where they fall under in general with their team.
They might be playing in Play Versus for League of Legends. Some teams will do League of Legends with Play Versus and then everything else with MySEF. It's all over the place. There are a couple high school teams out there, but there's not nearly enough to support the amount of colleges.
I know Kalkaska does too, but I don't know if they do Play Versus.
Yeah. And the other piece of this is that there aren't enough high school teams to support the amount of colleges that are adopting it so quickly. So in the last year and a half, we've gone from 5 college teams to 25 in Michigan. In the same time period, we've gone from about 38 high school teams to 41. And that growth just doesn't match. So now you have colleges who are looking for anyone who has some experience playing these games, and the rank requirement is lowered. The amount of scholarship money is increasing or staying about the same. And that's a massive problem for all of us, because most programs in the country that were started at the college level were started to bring new students in. And that's the only key performance indicator for that program succeeding, is how many students you bring into the school. And you have programs who just can't meet that number because there aren't enough high school kids that are expressing interest yet. So,
I mean, that makes sense. But I mean, there's certain titles that will only, like you said, I know Fortnite does Play Versus, correct?
I think so. I think Fortnite has decided or is working through not becoming an exclusive licensing deal anymore. Epic wants to be as open as possible.
Right. And that's why I like to see, because Epic before it was it seen as an esport in high school or colleges was very tight, locked down. Like,
yes.
You couldn't do anything. When I was a pro, it was like, you can't do that. Like, you can't do that at all. We were in a league from Altoona, Pennsylvania, that was they were franchising it. I was like, we got to get out of this league. You can't do that. Like, And I told the head of our organization, Lazarus, at the time, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to get, because we had some people that were on our esports organization go to Epic, and they were part of Fortnite. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get some people on the horn here and see what happens here, because I don't think we should be there. We're like, no, we're going to get out of there. So, but yeah, there's certain rules and certain things that you can and can't do. And what I am happy to see is a lot of developers are working hand in hand with colleges and high schools, which is great.
They are. They're becoming more open to the idea.
Right.
I think what you described with Epic is probably similar to most game developers. They wanted to protect their intellectual property, their game, as much as possible from anyone profiting off of it or making something bad. And now they're opening their doors a little bit to say, okay, here's some rules that you can generally just do if you want. You don't have to get our permission. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. Another issue that I'm seeing in collegiate right now is just a lack of talented coaching too.
Right.
There's so many programs starting, and there isn't enough talent to fill those positions. Right. So, I mean, yeah,
it's that, or you have somebody who's very forward thinking and good on them, but then they get the role of director or coach, and they don't know what they're doing just yet, or they're finding it tough, like you said, to bring in talent for it.
Our role as a head coach at the college level right now is very odd, because we're oftentimes the one full-time staff member overseeing multiple game titles,
and most
seasons. Of us in multiple seasons. Like, we're always working, but when you think of a coach for football, that football coach doesn't have to oversee basketball, baseball, football, etc. They're usually only overseeing football, whereas esports is a little different. So that skill set is very different than what I think a lot of talented players would be able to bring when they look to look full time into collegiate esports. So
if I'm a parent looking at esports programs with my kid, what should they look for? Like, what are the signs of a good esports program? What do you think parents should be aware of?
Yeah, it's going to vary, and it depends on what your priorities as a parent and a student are. If you're looking to go pro, or you're very competitive, what you're looking for in a college program is going to be vastly different than, I want to find a scholarship to go to a school and get a degree, and that's the priority. Because if you want to be how do I say some of this stuff? If I wanted to be an engineer, and that's the priority, and I want to get a scholarship to pay for that school to get my engineering degree a little cheaper, Michigan Tech's probably where I want to go.
Right.
That would be a great opportunity. Michigan Tech's a great school. Engineering school is amazing. Their esports program is still very well ran and competitive.
Yep.
But if you're looking to go pro in, say, League of Legends, Michigan Tech probably isn't the place you want to go.
Right.
The place you want to go is probably Maryville, or Harrisburg. But the competitive rank is going to be much different. Their practice regiments are going to be much different. So you're going to be spending a lot more time practicing and competing at a Maryville than you might at Michigan Tech or Aquinas.
Right.
So the priorities have to be different there. But past those priorities, I think having a conversation with the coach there and kind of learning who they are and how they operate, what their priorities are, I think are really important. There's not enough coaches in the space talking with parents yet. A lot of our communication is with students, and that's it. And I think parents could bring a lot of value to the conversation and make sure that, hey, my kid's not being just thrown a bunch of fake, exciting facts or numbers.
Right.
Let's actually take a deep dive on what this program offers. Is it good for my student? And will it get my student to where they want to be come 4 years when they graduate?
The other thing is, exactly. What will they will they get there in 4 years and graduate? Will my kid be taken care of? Will he get the right tutelage? A lot of parents probably, probably look into that a little more. Especially, I'm not stereotyping here, but moms in general, they want to make sure Robbie or Jane are taken care of. While at school, especially if they go out of state, so I understand 100%. You got to deep dive. You got to figure out.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of went on my own little path sorry, Mom, back in college, I was looking. I wanted to play hockey and baseball, and I wanted to get my meteorology degree, and I found the one school that I could do this, and I was like, I'm going there. And she's like, it's 8 hours away. I was like, Mom, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah,
So, and thankfully I did, and I learned so much. But I was well taken care of from coaches, professors, people who made sure that I was doing what I had to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like parents outside of a parent.
Yeah. Coaches are
huge.
so vastly different across the ecosystem and what their goals are and how they operate. Programs are so different. I mean, there are programs out there that only practice a little bit. They compete in one league. Esports is clearly not the priority. Right. And then there's programs who are competing in 5 different leagues and have 4 practices a week, and they have a full 20-hour-a-week schedule like Michigan Tech or Boise State, who follow that NCAA rule. And those are going to draw different students, and different students are going to succeed in that environment. And I think it's important for the student and hopefully the parent to realize that and help navigate that conversation, because oftentimes us coaches are only looking at, oh, this is a super high ranked player. We really want them at all costs. So let's just convince them to sign today. Right. Whereas a lot of these new coaches need to take a step back and realize, like, this might not be the best place for this student, even if they're the most competitive in your recruiting.
I hear that 100% too. Like it differs from every program. And that kind of leads right into my next question. And we mentioned it earlier. You've had a plethora of talent under you, whether it's assistant coaches, whether it's been players. And my biggest thing is everyone who's always talked to me said, you got to talk to Adam. You got to talk to Adam. So there's something in the water. Is it you? Is it the talent? Is it the programs you lead? There's so much here to unravel, because you have a lot of people, like you said, Powder, Carl, even though Carl didn't play under you, he was, an assistant coach, but like, what is it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, year one, I would say it's all luck, but at a certain point you step back and you're like, okay, it can't just be luck.
Right.
What is it that I'm doing? Because from a tactical standpoint, a strategic standpoint, I'm not smarter at any of these games than anyone I've coached.
Right.
But what I can point to is a lot of times what I'm doing is giving people an opportunity to do something, getting out of their way and letting them run. I mean, Carl Leone messaged me on Facebook when he saw my story, or me being announced being the Aquinas coach on a local news station in Grand Rapids. And he just messaged me out of the blue and said, hey, I want to play league, or I want to coach your league team. We had a conversation and started letting him. He just started coaching my league team. He was volunteering after work on most days. And then within a year, he was hired at Oakland University. And I now have 4 former assistant coaches who are full-time at other institutions at this point in the last 2 years of coaching. So like, it can't just be luck. No, but I will say that most of it is like, these people that I've worked with, both students and coaches, have been really driven, really smart. Like, they have been really passionate and knowledgeable. But a lot of it's been me just like empowering them and getting out of their way. Like,
let them do what you want to do.
Yeah. And I've always established or tried to establish a culture of like, this is like pretty serious. Like, we're not coming here just to play video games. Like, this is, when you walk through that door, this is a different atmosphere. Like, we're here to take care of business. Right. And I don't know.
And you can see that ingrained in everybody that you talk to that's there. I understand you don't want to put yourself on a pedestal by any means, but where did you
I hate when people do, because I've only been doing this for 2 years. So like, I'm not doing everything right. There's so many mistakes I'm making, and like, and it's I think it's,
and that's for
it's
good,
kind
though.
of a defense. Yeah. It's also like a defense mechanism in my own regard, is like, if I say I'm doing things good, like, where do I go from here?
Right.
Like,
right.
I said, I'm 28.
No,
I've been doing this for 2 years. I should be at the very beginning of learning what the heck I'm doing.
But then you look at people like Doc, who's been in it for so long, and you see what he has built and where he's going.
Holy
and
cow.
It just continues to grow, And I feel like
Doc
you're
is
on that.
Amazing.
You're on. I mean, you're not Doc, but you're on getting that level. Like, you just continue to go up. So my question isn't necessarily driven right at you, but it feels like there's something that there's an Adam effect, if you will. Like, people who come in, whether they play, whether they cast, whether they coach, leave, and they're like, dude, Adam was one of the best mentors I've ever had. Was it something that you had prior to being a coach, or prior to being there?
I don't know. Like I said, it's always been
I feel like
empowering
we're on the
people.
couch right now, like an hour-long psychology thing. Like, why?
No,
What
yeah,
makes
yeah,
you
yeah.
tick right now? Why is
Yeah.
this? But
Um,
it blows my mind because everyone's like, yeah, Adam, Adam, Adam.
uh,
Even Doc was like, yeah, Adam, Adam, Adam. I was like, what the heck is this? Like, there's something to it.
yeah. I've
So I
always
just
enjoyed
wondered.
being as much of an open book as possible.
Right.
Letting the curtains open and showing all the information, like whether that's budget examples for people who want to be a director, or if it's um, telling them like, hey, this is the tough conversations I deal with
Right.
as a director daily, like, or come sit in when this one-on-one with a student today, or um, like just and that's all goes back to empowering people.
Right.
I think a lot of coaches conversations with other coaches in the space, they have a lot of problems, or they struggle with letting go on some of the power and responsibility they have, especially when it comes to their students, their assistant coaches. And sometimes it's better to just delegate and let them run with it. Obviously there's feedback loops and like checking in and things of that sort, but
So I think what this boils down to, Adam, is you are just a genuine human being, and it literally, like, you just let people do what they want to do and make sure like they have like a path, and it just ends up like being you're just I don't know what it is.
I think
it's
that's
just, you're
probably
a
the
genuine
same
human
thing
being.
with when we all look back at like our favorite teacher growing up.
Yeah.
Like if you look back at that teacher, it's not that that teacher was like the best teacher of the subject. It was that they empowered you or showed you a different way of doing something or learning something. And
that is 100 that is 1,000,000% correct, because when I look back at high school, some of my favorite teachers were the ones, because as a kid, my mind was always moving a million miles a second. And I had to be the first one done with my in-class work, and I'm sitting at my desk for 30 minutes because I have nothing else to do. And the classes I got in trouble in were those teachers that didn't know how to deal with the excess Michael Stevens. Like, but the teachers that did do well, like Mr. Lloyd will always be my favorite teacher because I had him for anatomy. I made sure I had his classes because he let you do the things that you need to do. Like, I had him for so many classes that really didn't mean anything for me down the road. He was also my JV baseball coach, and he nicknamed me Squirrel because I was all over the field trying to get the ball. And he's like, all right, you're at second base, you stay here, but if you need to, use all your other energy to go help your other teammates. And I was like, oh, okay. When you sit a kid down and put it in perspective in the fact that they can understand, or you just give them the ability to what feels like open up and just do stuff without being a problem, then you are born. Like,
I going back to that, I mean, I struggled with some mental health stuff the past couple of years when it comes to like anxiety, and panic attacks, and working through like that process, like using therapists and all sorts of stuff. It's really opened up my eyes from being able to be more empathetic towards others and realize where they're coming from. And I think that's really important when it comes to mentoring college students as well. It's not just that this person is a mean person and is yelling at their student or their teammate because they want to. Like, there's probably something behind that. So I that's also been a part of my growth.
Growing day to day as human beings, man.
Yeah, I just personally don't like it when people are like, oh my gosh, Adam Antor, he's so awesome. And in reality, it's like, I look back, I'm like, I'm not that great. Like, I make mistakes. Like, from my perspective, what I'm doing is common sense stuff.
Common sense, but you're being extremely humble because, the talent and the people coming from you oozes it, and they all point back to you. So you're doing something correct, but I understand where you're coming from 100%. I appreciate I do the same thing. Like, people are like, you're the best meteorologist. I'm like, I'm not the best meteorologist. I do what I can. I deliver what I can, how I think you should have the forecast, and I understand getting put on that pedestal. It's just like, no, I'm just a normal human being doing my job, I make mistakes. I'm normal. But
it also goes back to like, we're empowered to be able to do this things.
Right,
like
exactly.
For your podcast, like, you're empowered by your boss to do this and explore esports. I would not have been in the same place at Aquinas if my boss wasn't as supportive and empowering. I mean, Logan, shout out to Logan down there at Aquinas. I mean, he let me take the reins and build things the way I wanted it. And then you look at other coaches who've come before me, and Doc Haskell, perfect example. Whenever I have a question, I shoot him a message, and he's on a phone call within minutes, like answering it, providing more examples. And I believe he has set the tone of how I operate with other coaches and how I help assist other programs and thus the entire landscape. I mean, we're really proud as college coaches across the country that we're really open and helpful with other programs.
And that's like one of the biggest things I've noticed in esports is just everyone is so helping.
Yeah.
Like everyone's
I think we have to be.
We'll sit here.
I think we have to be
because
I mean, for us, like our greatest, the greatest fight that we have as college esports coaches is against people who are not in esports and don't understand it. So we all have the same common enemy, if you will. It's like the lack of knowledge of other people. And so like coming together and helping drive that further, I think benefits all of us in the space.
Oh yeah.
So
hugely. What is the biggest thing you think college esports needs right now?
Oh my goodness. In what regard? Like
this was a question where I wrote it and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good question. Then I sit here and I look at it and I was like, yeah, that's open-ended. But I mean, with the biggest thing, I mean, do you think it needs organization? Do you think it needs maybe a little more organization? Do you think it needs more schools at the major level? Like, what do you think?
I mean, it's going to be a combination of a lot of things. I think what'll help will be those bigger schools adopting it. I just saw the University of Maryland just posted a job for a head esports coach. And seeing those D1s get parents that are outside of esports more excited about it, gets administrators at other schools more excited about it. So the resources and funding for all programs across the board is much needed, and that would greatly accelerate our growth if we had that. Like if I could give more scholarship money, I could get more kids here. And kind of that process. On the other end is I think high schools need to be more developed. The high school scene is just so in its infancy. It is. It's smaller and it's a slower growth because there's less funding and there's less initiative, or there's less of a reason why a high school should support esports versus college when you look at just tuition dollars. So the high school side, it just needs a lot of love across the country. I mean, Michigan is at the forefront, when especially the Midwest in general is way ahead of everyone else,
which is wild to me. I never would have thunk that. You know?
There's some smart people in the high school scene driving some change. Shout out to some of the coaches at the high school level in Michigan. I mean, Ted at Pinckney, Zach at Perry. I mean, they're all killing it. I know Steven at Detroit Catholic Central has been doing a lot of cool stuff. But
I can only imagine they have to jump through more hoops in college even.
It is. Well, when you look at the college scene, and we can share the details and stuff, but I was turning a profit for Aquinas year one when you looked at how much they were investing into esports and how much additional tuition dollars were coming in. There was no year of negative dollar or cash flow. Like it was positive year one, and then year two it doubled. And we're talking like $500,000 additional tuition revenue every year just because they started esports. So from their perspective, in most small private schools at the college level, it makes perfect sense. Like, why would you not do this? But the high school level, there's not additional tuition dollars coming in. So it's a lot more difficult of a sell.
So let's flip it to a different, like, kind of same question, but a little bit different. Where do you see, or what do you see happening in collegiate esports in the next 5 to 10 years?
What I'm seeing and what I think is going to happen is that every school will have
a program
some type of esports or gaming. And I think they're going to be combined into something. So when you look at Michigan, right now they're under rec sports. It's Sibby. I believe you had Sibby on a couple weeks ago. She's under the recreational sports department. A lot of it is student engagement focused, but obviously she loves esports, so she's doing a little bit more on the competitive side of things. But it's a lot more student engagement versus recruitment and competition. I think that's what we're going to see across the board. So the smaller schools started with varsity programs because they wanted tuition dollars, but now those coaches are like, all right, now what do I do? Let's engage the rest of campus in stuff. So it'll be esports and gaming coming together on every campus because there's really no reason not to do it. Now, will every school give scholarship money and have full-time coaches? Probably not. Like full-time and full-time game coaches, probably not. I think at some point the NCAA will probably get involved, and then you'll start seeing some big big programs
Right.
that are focused on competition, but I don't know if that's 2 years down the line, 10 or 20. I don't know.
I don't know how you do it because there's so many
yeah,
titles.
there's titles, there's developers that have to sign on to some type of long-term contract agreement. And
don't get me wrong,
there's a
the
lot of
money's
rules
there, and the NCAA will definitely, say I would like into this, but I just it's much tougher than I think people understand because traditional sports, it's a game. There you go, bam. We have a program, but it's like esports. There's just so many different titles under esports. Like every game can be an esport in some fashion if you put the effort into it.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting, will it grow? Will it do what it needs to do at that level?
Yeah, I think it's interesting right now watching who's getting into the space in collegiate esports, and right now what we're seeing is the licensing companies. So, IMG Learfield is one of them. Playfly is another. They license college athletic brands, but now they've created esports divisions, and they're actually hosting leagues.
That's cool.
So it's and there's a lot of money flooding into collegiate esports right now, and a lot of it's coming through those companies. And I don't know where that falls long term. Will there be one league that we all compete in? I don't know. I hope so, but who decides that, and who runs that? Do you think we
ever get to the point where they draft players like they do in traditional sports?
Ooh, probably not, because right now most gamers are peaking around age 18.
Right.
So 18 to 21 is kind of their peak when we look at competitive gamers. So college kind of isn't even a part of that conversation of a path to pro. But from my perspective, what I'm seeing is the maturity level of students who compete at the college level in esports and then leave is much higher than a kid right out of high school.
Right.
So from my perspective, all the pro teams are like, oh, we'll never want to get college kids. Those guys are too old. They're too old to come play for us. But from my perspective, I'm seeing something that the level of maturity and the way about going about practicing and things of that sort, you don't learn currently before that college scene. So I think there's going to be a path to pro. We might see more of like a European football model potentially.
Right.
I get
regard. That would be, it'd make a little more sense. I just don't foresee maybe 20 years down the road when gaming starts becoming a little bit different, whereas like traditional sports, getting a kid right out of high school, that kid has to be tremendous. But like you said, the maturity level is just not there. And with gamers, you peak, as of right now, they were peaking younger. But as time grows and there's more people playing video games, that might change down the road. Yeah,
it might. Yeah, the question I always have too is like, are they peaking at 18, or is it that by the time we as gamers are 22, we have other priorities, so we stop gaming as much.
That might be it too.
Are they only good because they can play 12 hours a day when they're 18, or are they good because being young, your brain is better? I don't know. I think it's more of you have more time as a high school kid.
That is true. Last question here in our the meat and potatoes here. What are your individual goals, and what are your goals for kids in program? Obviously, we've heard some of this before, but and big emphasis, but what are the goals for the kids in program that you now at Florida Southern College? So, I mean, what are your goals here for the next, year, few years?
Yeah. So right now I'm specifically focusing on broadcast, building out the next spring or next fall. I want to get a much more competitive program when we look at individual teams. So we're recruiting, and I want to create more gaming opportunities on campus for students not in the varsity program. So those are the three goals for the program, if you will. For my students, it's always to get them to graduate. Like that's end all be all. Like that's the goal. Like you get your degree and you get out. And I've been really good. Carl and I have this joke. Carl Leone is like, I'm really good at convincing someone to come into the program, whether it be a player or a student, but I'm even better at convincing them to leave. And that's the goal. Like, get your degree, get out. If you're an assistant coach, get your experience, get out, go find a full-time job. And that's going to be my goal anytime I'm in collegiate, like forever, is like, let's get them in and get them out, and get them onto the path to being whatever they want to be, whatever they want to do, and being self-sufficient. And then they can come back, be an alumni, write us a big check as a thank you 10 years down the road, so we can continue building stuff. But yeah, that'll be continually the goal for students.
All right,
personally,
cool, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, my goal.
I didn't know if you wanted to hit on this because I don't want to talk about Adam, and
No, I mean, my personal goal is like I don't know what I want to do. Like,
I mean,
you tell me, you asked me 3 years ago what I'm going to be doing, I would have said director of marketing at West Catholic High School. Like esports was not on the radar, and now it is. And a year ago at Aquinas, I would have said I'm going to be here at Aquinas for the next 20 years. I love this job.
A year ago, you asked me, I'm working Michigan this morning and a morning meteorologist for the rest of my life,
Yeah. And people just want to know, like, what do you want to do in 5 years?
Right.
I'm like, I don't know.
It's
like
tough.
Esports wasn't a thing 5 years ago.
Exactly.
But
very
yeah,
different.
I mean, there's probably aspirations to, I mean, if Michigan were to call up at some point in the future and be like, hey, we want you to be the new director of esports, Sibby's retiring or something like that. It's like, I grew up a Michigan fan. I might have to consider it.
Go maize and blue.
Yeah, but for now, I mean, I've got a lot on my plate here and a lot to get accomplished at Florida Southern. So
now it's go sun faded red.
Go sun faded red. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right, so we're done with the meat and potatoes. Now we got to get to some fun games here. I know you're a little time crunch here, but we'll get out on time. Yeah. But we got to know your setup, brother. A lot of people always like to know setups. Obviously, you got into PC gaming when you got into LUL.
I did.
But what's your PC look like? What are you running on the inside? What mouse, keyboard, headset? What are you using?
I did get a hold of a 3070, so I've got the 3070
lucky.
in my.
I'm still trying it. You're after the day, and I can't get one. I won a Newegg Shuffle once, but it was for like a $2,500 3080 Ti. I was like,
no, the director at University of Michigan Flint was tested some 30 series and was like, hey, these were used for a month, trying to get rid of them. I'll sell them at cost. And I was like, done, me. So I bought that, got the 3070. I think I got an i7 something in there. I'm not a huge hardware guy, so people will laugh at me. I'm an MMO mouse guy. I've got the Logitech
16
MMO mouse.
16 buttons on the side.
12. Take it easy. Yeah, 12. HyperX headset, obviously I'm wearing today. And then I'm usually a Corsair keyboard guy at this point. I used to be all Logitech, but
do you prefer a chair or what do you have? Do you have DX Racers? What is that?
Here we have Clutch Gaming.
Okay.
At my house, I just have like a $300 office chair from Amazon.
Yeah.
I like it way more. I don't know how you sit in a race chair for 5 hours.
I've had this for like 3 or 4 years, and it's getting to the point where it's like, I kind of need something better for my back.
Well, I was talking with, I talked with Herman Miller when they first launched, and then I was doing a lot of work at Steelcase before I moved. And I'm just like, one of these days I'm going to be able to afford
I would love a Herman Miller chair. Yeah, but I was like, 1,500 bones. Like, that thing better drive me to work, dude.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see those guys enter the space.
It is cool. And I had Gamer Doc on last week. And she was going through some of the things. I was like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Because she has one of those, I think it was a Herman Miller chair. And I was like,
the Embody.
Yeah. She's like, I was like, does that work? She's like, you have no idea. Like, it's so good. So I was like, man, I really need to give me a better chair. But she made sense, though, because she's like, these are just chairs out of race cars. These were performance car seats. And yeah, they make you sit correctly, but unless you have it correct all the time, it just doesn't do wonders. It just looks cool for the most part.
It does look cool.
All right, so now we're gonna get to 10. I call them rapid fire questions, but the problem is when I started these podcasts, and I'm sure you've heard them at the end, people always have to justify their answers, so they're not really rapid fire anymore. So, but I like to change them up every now and then, just because, like you, I've had some people listen to the podcast, and I gotta keep you on your toes a little bit. So there's gonna be a little bit different in here. But for the first question, favorite platform console, which one is it?
PC. Hands down. Haven't turned on my Xbox in a couple of years.
I actually just sold mine. I had a Series X, and I was like, I've turned this on 5 times to play the show, and I haven't touched it since. If I get the frames, if I get better quality, I have 2 PCs. Like, I'm playing PC. Everything's available on PC anymore.
Well, I haven't paid for a full price game in years.
Oh, exactly.
So Steam is amazing.
Steam is my I actually really want a Steam Deck, but I was just like, I don't know if I can justify paying for it because I don't travel that much. But when you can have your Steam library wherever you go, I was like,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Favorite game?
Right now, League of Legends.
All time.
But
you got to choose, brother.
Oh gosh.
I didn't say this was going to be easy.
Probably Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1.
Oh my.
Let's go with that one.
Yeah.
Let's go with that one.
That is such a good game. When they did the remake and I bought it on computer, I was in love, dude. It was so good.
The soundtrack plays in my head constantly,
dude. Superman. Oh my goodness. We got that for PlayStation 1, and we literally would just restart the one warehouse task, and we would just go to Superman every time.
Yeah.
We'd just make sure Superman was on repeat. I was like,
that's so good.
So good. Go-to snack while gaming, if you do at all.
Ooh. It's got to be like just McChicken from McDonald's.
Yeah.
I'm a McChicken McDouble dude.
McChicken
And that's
McDouble.
not really a snack, but
no.
That was.
I mean, I do it all the time. I'll go grab some fast food and then come back and fire up the computers, get ready for stream, and sit here while I'm eating.
Yeah, if it's got to be in house, like frozen chicken tenders, like chicken tenders.
He's a chicken guy.
And a Coke. Yeah.
He likes his tendies. And
I do like my tendies.
Favorite TV show / movie?
Probably Shooter.
Shooter.
Favorite movie would be Shooter. It's sniper. I think Matt Damon. Was it Matt Damon?
I can't remember.
Damon.
There's so many of them.
I think there was 2. This was the 2007.
I can't remember.
Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, Wahlberg. Okay.
Yeah. That was a good movie.
One. That was a good one. I'm gonna change this one up.
Okay. Is it the guilty
we'll
pleasure
go back.
one?
Yeah. The thing was, I added that one. I was like, it's not
Could
really
be good.
hitting the chord that would like for me because I have the boy band guilty pleasure. I was like, we'll change that one. Favorite pro traditional team?
The Lions. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
That's 2 weeks in a row now that we've had a Detroit.
I know
Lions,
what pain feels like.
Yeah,
so
dude, we know.
It builds character.
I broke the golden rule this past Sunday. Like, I won't watch a Lions game until they win.
Oh,
yeah. I was just sitting on the couch and they were playing the Bengals. I was like, oh, I'll turn this on. I have a good feeling.
This is gonna be the week.
It was 27-0. I was like, this is not. No, it's not the week.
My uncle said if they didn't win that week, they're going 0-16. So that'll be fun.
To be honest with you, their schedule is in not their favor.
Yeah.
And it's been heartbreaking. Sad. It's so sad. I just watched the Nate Shot and Courage podcast with Ninja.
Yeah.
Ninja was on this week.
Did they talk about the Lions?
Yes.
Ninja's a big Lions
He
fan.
is. He's huge. And he's like, dude, it's so hard because you get so big and I can't just tweet out how frustrated I am with the Lions. He's like, because it will hurt the Lions organization. I was like, he's not wrong. He would do more damage. And to be honest with you, he needs to say something. Because
he should.
The
say something.
It's been 60-some-odd years, and I hate to rant about this, but it's 60-some-odd years. The Fords bought him in 59 after the World Championship.
You'd think that they would figure something out at some point.
Get the Fords out of there. Obviously, they're not doing it correctly. We've won 2 playoff games in 62 years.
Something is not working
Something
properly,
is not
unfortunately.
Correct. And everyone's like, the Jets are worse or the Giants are worse. No, we historically are so much worse.
No, the Browns were bad one year and like really bad one year, but we were bad another. All of them.
Man,
yeah, I mean, one of my favorite childhood memories was laying on the couch when my dad was on the recliner next to me, and we'd watch the Lions every Sunday.
Barry Sanders, man. We've had the best players to ever play the game, and we ruined
Joey
their careers.
Harrington. I don't know if you know that.
He won Heisman coming out of Oregon.
That was my middle school
and
years.
Tanked so hard. There was a stretch of like 7 years we would get the first round draft pick and they would be so bad. Charles Rogers from Michigan State. Oh man, it was so bad for a long time. Mike Williams Roy Williams, and it didn't pan out.
All the Williamses,
and then they leave and do just fine. So there's that one. Cat or dog person?
I'm a cat person.
Cat guy.
We have both. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, it's not that we love one more than the other. It's just, what do you prefer?
Yeah. So here's my deal. I don't have to go out and walk a dog. I don't have to stop gaming to go walk a dog.
A cat
just goes.
Yeah,
a cat just goes. I'll clean it up when I have time.
I get that one.
Yeah.
First car.
Kia Optima. It was the manager's special on the Kia lot. My parents bought it for junior year so they didn't have to drive me to school anymore.
That's good. I like that one.
Yeah, it survived a long time.
Oh yeah, dude. They're just not built the same anymore.
Yeah.
Would you rather, the old left field question, I'm sure you heard this one.
Gosh.
Would you rather be attacked by one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Oh yeah. Probably one horse-sized duck. I listened to, I think, Caitlin's response about, was she the one who talked about the numbers? Like, numbers. Yeah. Like, same thing.
It made
like
sense.
100 of them would take me over and
Yeah.
Whereas like one spear
And
to
then
the
I had
horse-sized duck.
And then I had Purdy Curdy, PUBG Pro. He said he'd just climb a tree. 100 horse-sized ducks aren't getting
you
to
did say that. Yeah, that's fair. I don't climb trees well.
Makes sense.
Though.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't have much upper. I was a soccer player growing up, so all my
all
strengths
the
are my legs. Yeah. Pull-ups were never my thing.
Never your thing. I don't have a filler question. I'm just gonna ask it. Favorite guilty pleasure? You got one?
I'm gonna have to say show tunes.
Yeah.
I'll listen to Hamilton soundtrack on repeat.
You and my wife are best friends now. She literally would just put that thing on repeat. And don't get me wrong, I've watched it. We haven't gone to the actual play. We watched it on Disney Plus, and the soundtrack is phenomenal. What he did with that show is so good. Good. But I'm not one to get lost in the, I'm not going to put it on repeat, but I'm not going to lie. When it comes on, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm bobbing. I'm singing. I know the words to this. So
Greatest Showman, Dear Evan Hansen. Like, I've got playlists.
Greatest Showman was so good. We watched that in the theater, and I walked out dancing around. I was like,
I thought it was going to be the cheesiest movie I've ever seen.
Did too.
And I was like, whoa, this was good.
It was good. And then you sprinkle a little Zac Efron, and I was like, High School Musical vibes going on here now. Just a little more adult. I like it.
My wife would call it a guilty pleasure, but I'm a huge Bo Burnham fan.
Oh,
like Bo Burnham.
That last album, that's on repeat on my Spotify. So good.
But I've been listening to all of his stuff on repeat on Spotify for years.
Well, the funny thing is, I hadn't heard of him, and I didn't know him. And so when Welcome to the Internet came out, I was like, oh my God. And so then I got the backstory and listened to all of his other stuff. I was like, okay, we literally turned this kid into like a basket case. He took 5 years off, and now he's coming back with this. Like, it was so perfect timing for him because he could do a special by himself, and it was a great idea. And he's such an artist. He did that all by himself.
He's so smart.
Camera.
Oh my gosh,
he's
so good. And and for me, it was like when he announced he wasn't going to be doing stand up anymore, like that hurt. Like I was what? I love this stuff. And then to come to find out he was having panic attacks. Like, I've had panic attacks. My first panic attack was on my wedding day. Like, I understand the how that works, like how difficult that is. And like, it was so good. Like, big fan. Yeah. So if I ever meet Bo Burnham, that's the one celebrity I'll be like, the
celebrity crush. Maybe that should have been the question. Who's your celebrity crush? Maybe I'll change the shade up. Last question, buddy, before we get you out of the hot seat. Anywhere in the world where you're going?
I've been asked this, and my answer is always home. I have no interest in traveling.
So what's home?
Unless if it's right now, it's my house in Florida.
So just home where you're at.
Homebody. Yeah. Now, if I could pick the date, it would be a massive esports event, like the League of Legends World Finals.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's if I was asked to like where would you want to go, it would be to a major esports event somewhere. Right. It doesn't matter where. Like,
and that's the funny thing is I've never been to one, but they just look so.
What?
I've never been to one. Dude. Well, the thing is, you like Northern Michigan, man. You just don't have the options. Like when I was part of Set to Destroy X, they had the H1Z1 league going on, and they had a bunch of people fly out there for it, and that looked phenomenal. But like when you talk like the PUBG or like the Fortnite World Cup, we had players in that, and we recruited players for that. And I was bummed I could not go. Like it wasn't an option because Epic was so tight on who could go and how you could wear stuff and all that. And I was bummed, but we watched that. And I was like, my goodness gracious,
dude.
Those Fortnite events were something else. But then when you start looking at League of Legends, like that's a different beast.
Yeah.
That's massive.
It was the summer finals for North America was at Little Caesars
and the
back in 2019.
Are crazy.
Whenever I need to convince someone not in esports that esports is a legit thing, I just have them go to a big event in an arena, and they're instantly like, "Oh, let's do this!" Like I had the sports commission in West Michigan go down to the spring finals that were in St. Louis that same year, and they walked out of that event saying, "We need to do esports," and they did. They started playing and stuff. So, yeah, dude, esports events are awesome.
Adam, thank you, brother. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you check him out. Adam Antor, coach now for Florida Southern College, the Mocs. He was part of Aquinas. The guy is a wealth of knowledge. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here. I'm sure we'll reach back out at another point, see how everything's going with the program and what's new cooking on your schedule.
Yeah.
Or if we need some hot takes, we'll get a hold of you on Twitter.
I got plenty of
spicy hot takes you got on there. But you can follow him on his Twitter. You can follow the Mocs on their Twitters, their Twitch. But thank you, brother. Again, I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. This was a
It's
lot of
good
fun,
time, isn't it, man?
It's love. I love talking about esports, and thanks again for having me.
No problem.